Imagine being just 14 years old, full of dreams, innocence, and hope for the future. Now imagine being forced into a marriage with a man twice your age, a king who was sick, paranoid, and already broken by tragedy. This is not a fairy tale. And this is the heartbreaking story of Isabel de Valois, the young French princess whose destiny was sealed by politics, power, and sorrow. Isabel de Valois was born on November 2nd, 1546, at the Château de Fontainebleau in France. She was the daughter of King Henry II of France and Catherine de' Medici, one of the most powerful and feared queens of the Renaissance. From the very beginning, Isabel's life was never truly her own. As a royal child, her value was measured not in personal happiness, but in the alliances she could create. The little girl grew up surrounded by the French court's beauty, art, music, and pageantry. But behind the luxury, the court was filled with tension, political rivalry, and bloody religious wars. The death that changed everything. In 1559, tragedy struck. Her father, King Henry II, was killed in a jousting accident during a tournament. The royal family was thrown into chaos. Her mother, Catherine de' Medici, took control as regent, and Isabel, barely a teenager, suddenly became a valuable pawn in Europe's political chessboard. France and Spain had been locked in brutal wars for decades. Peace was desperately needed, and so the leaders decided a marriage would unite the two nations. The chosen bride? Isabel, just 13 years old. The chosen groom? King Philip II of Spain, nearly twice her age. But this was no ordinary king. Philip II was known for his coldness, his strict Catholic devotion, and his fragile health. He was already a widower, having lost his beloved wife, Mary Tudor of England. Worse, Philip was consumed by depression and paranoia. And yet the marriage had to happen. Not for love, not for happiness, but for peace. In 1559, Isabel left her home, her family, and her childhood behind. She crossed the border into Spain, dressed as a bride, but carrying the heavy burden of duty. At just 14 years old, she was forced to stand before the Spanish court as queen. The marriage ceremony was a grand affair, filled with music, jewels, and ritual. But inside, Isabel was terrified. The Spanish court was strict, dark, and suffocating, a world far different from the lively French culture she had known. Philip II was not the husband of a young girl's dreams. He was 32 years old, deeply religious, and often ill. His personality was somber, his heart weighed down by grief for his late wife. For Isabel, the marriage was isolating. She had no friends in Spain, no family nearby, and very little freedom. Every move she made was watched, judged, and controlled. And yet, despite the distance in age and personality, something unexpected happened. Philip grew fond of Isabel. For the first time since Mary Tudor, he felt warmth in his cold palace. But that affection could not erase Isabel's loneliness. As queen, Isabel's primary duty was to give Spain an heir. Every month the court waited with anticipation. Was the young queen pregnant? The pressure was unbearable, but fate was cruel. Isabel's first pregnancies ended in tragedy. Miscarriages, stillbirths, and the loss of infants haunted her. Each loss broke her spirit a little more. She was barely out of childhood, yet already she was burdened with the sorrow of a grieving mother. Despite her suffering, Isabel brought something rare to the Spanish court joy. Her youth, her laughter, and her kindness won the hearts of many. The people called her La Reina de la Paz, the Queen of Peace. But the fragile happiness would not last. In 1568, when Isabel was just 21 years old, tragedy struck again. While pregnant once more, she fell gravely ill. The details remain debated. Some say it was complications of childbirth. Others speak of fevers or infections. What is certain is this: Isabel, the young queen, who had given everything to her duty, died far too soon. She never reached her 22nd birthday. She left behind no surviving children. And with her death, Philip II once again found himself widowed, haunted by grief. Isabel de Valois' story is one of sacrifice. She never had the chance to choose her path, her love, or her destiny. Her short life was consumed by politics, tragedy, and loss. And yet her memory lived on. Her charm, her grace, and her tragic fate inspired writers, artists, and even opera composers. To this day, she remains a symbol of how power can destroy innocence. The story of Isabel de Valois reminds us that behind the crowns and titles, kings and queens were often prisoners of their own fate. She was just a girl, a child, forced into a role far beyond her years. If you found this story moving, don't forget to subscribe for more forgotten tales of history, where power and tragedy walked hand in hand. And remember, sometimes the saddest stories are hidden behind the most beautiful crowns.